Hello.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Anybody else having a very eventful morning?
I don't
Can you
think
hear
quite
me?
as eventful as you, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
we are waiting for our chair, and then we should be good to go. How's everyone doing?
I will not be at the meeting next week. I will be in the Bahamas.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
I don't think we have a meeting scheduled for next week. We're gonna
perfect.
discuss possibly scheduling a kickoff with Locality, but we
Okay,
don't currently have one on the calendar for next week, so
great.
won't be missing anything. Certainly won't be missing the cold.
No, actually, I was looking at the weather. You guys are going to almost get into the 50s next week. Did you see that?
No, but that sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's
I
incredible.
wish I was gone now, though. That would have been so much more uh, appreciated.
Yeah, I think we could all agree that it would be nice to be in the Bahamas right now. Nate, I see you joined. Would you like to kick us off?
Uh, sure. Let me get situated here for a minute because it's kind of like been a flurry of activity here in the last 10 minutes. So I apologize. Uh, yeah, sure. We have a Chris here. Chris is here.
I am here.
Oh, cool. So we have, it looks like we do have quorum.
Yeah, they kicked me out of the dentist chair real quick.
Okay, that's good. Well, it's now the afternoon. It's 12:02. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Belchertown Branding Committee to order. At this point, I'd call a roll call.
Chris Martin here.
Maureen Hall
Ed,
present.
Ed Knight here.
And Nate Shattuck here. So we have quorum, and so at this point, I'm going to call to open any discussion for the approval of 6 sets of minutes. We can go through each one of them at a time. So I'll open up from January 31st, 2025, the first set of minutes. Is there any discussion on those? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote to approve the minutes of January 31st, 2025.
I second.
Or
I'll make a
you're going to
motion
make,
to accept the minutes of January 31st as presented.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll call a vote.
Ed Knight, aye.
Maureen Hall, aye.
Chris Martin, I.
Nate Shattuck, aye. So moved. So make a motion, or I can't even speak. I apologize. So the second set of minutes is from February 3rd of 2025. I'd like to open any discussion that may be required on those. Three, two, one, hearing none. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 3rd, 2025. Do
So moved.
I have a second?
Second. I second.
I'll call a vote.
Ed Knight, aye.
Maureen Hall, aye.
Chris Martin, I.
Nate Shattuck, aye. Next up, the minutes, a discussion of the minutes of February 5th, 2025 at noontime. Any
I'm
discussion?
sorry, can I interrupt for a second? Is Ed not supposed to be voting on these minutes because he wasn't a present member at the time? Shouldn't he be abstaining?
You still need a quorum to vote.
Right, but if I think your vote is abstain because you weren't a member. I think Terry is on the call if she wants to comment on that.
I do think in theory, Ed could have watched all of the recordings and read the minutes.
Okay, then I think his
I don't know
vote
if
still
that's-
needs to be abstain to have the quorum.
Well, that'd be the safe thing to do. Or he could make a note, file it with the town clerk attesting that he has reviewed all of the videos and minutes that are available. So that he was up on what was discussed. I think it's typically how that shakes out.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cause a problem. I just want to make
So,
sure we're doing it
Last I
properly.
checked, the town has not accepted the Mullins rule.
And what is that?
What's that?
That's where you watch the videos and you get read into the meeting process. That has to be accepted at town meeting, and as far as I know, that has never taken place in Belchertown.
It might have because the planning board's been doing it for, I don't know, 15
The
years.
planning boards, you go back through the town meetings for
Okay,
the last 10
here's a-
years, it's not there.
So
Here's a note
Terry
from-
Terry
here's a
wrote
note
in the
from
chat.
Terry.
Terry wrote in the chat that we do have accepted the Mullins rule. So would it be possible, Nate, to postpone voting on this until Molly arrives at 12:30? We just save the voting on the minutes until we have
That's
additional
another
members.
good solution is just wait until you have a forum of everyone who was there.
So I would ask Terry, since she's listening, when did that get adopted at town meeting?
I think the issue of whether or not it's been adopted is off the topic.
Yes and no.
If we can hold off until Molly gets here, then I say we do that.
I don't know if we can do that because we have to go.
We don't have to go in order. You're the chair, so you can decide.
Okay.
If we had time stamped any of the arrangements, then we would have to hold to those.
Yep,
But I
that's
believe that otherwise you can move around.
Correct.
So do we have to make a motion to pause the approval of minutes at this point?
Mm-mm.
Or
No, you as the chair can just move on.
Okay. So we'll move on until we have a quorum of attendees at 12:30. We do have the next up would be a discussion of the letter of interest that was presented to everyone. For some reason, my email is not working, so I can't share it. But does anyone
Nate, I
have that?
also, I don't, you haven't shared that with me, so I don't have that information. If it's in the drive, I can share it. But I don't know if you wanted to consider waiting until Molly joins for that. There is also public comment on the agenda. If you just wanted to move through things that,
Well,
I don't know if you want Molly's vote, and we know she's coming.
yeah. Well, I think at this point we'll then move on and talk about the project updates.
Is it possible to do public comment? We did receive an email that was requested to be read, so I have that and would share that. If you want to save that for the end, that's fine too.
Yeah, we can save that for the end at this point.
Okay.
I think I'd like to talk about some project updates if you wanted to begin with that.
Sure. So I had a great conversation with our town manager last week, And he offered the suggestion of giving a little bit of a framing of what I'm doing and what the role of the project manager is, because we have some new folks on board that weren't part of that initial process of getting the committee in order. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what my scope of work is and what my role is. And I also wanted to maybe share the floor with Maud and Chris and any of the folks that, and Doug, or any of the folks on the call that were part of the initial convening of this project, to share why there's a project manager and what my role is and answer questions on that. So I responded to an RFP asking for project management support for the Branding Belchertown project. And the reason that I applied and was really interested in that project was because I see it as a change management process and project. And I'm really invested in helping create space for community input and input for folks on this committee. And my role is to kind of keep the ball rolling on this project and bring people into the room that need to be in the room and ask questions and drive the project forward. When I applied to this role and got the role, this was a working group. So we didn't have a committee, we didn't have agendas, we didn't have a lot of the procedural and administrative process that we are now dealing with. So I just want to name that and say thank you to Maud and Chris and Nate for like stepping into and Molly also, who's not here, stepping into the role of helping support some of that additional workflow that wasn't actually part of our initial understanding of what this project was going to be. So that has been a shift and a change for those that are new. But Maud, I'm wondering if you might want to speak to like why the project, a little bit of background for folks that are kind of coming in fresh, and why a project manager, all those things.
Sure. I mean, I think some of this stuff is covered in our FAQs, just around the process and how we came to this point, that this was a recommendation in the 2021 recovery plan, which guides my work. And and it charted out a kind of timeline and cost that was big. And we were like, ooh, I don't know if that's actually possible within the time frame that we have. And Chris Martin, chair of the communication committee, Jen Turner from the select board, and I went to this municipal branding webinar that featured the city of Amesbury. And they gave us a timeline and a budget that just rocked our total understanding of the possibilities. And we were like, oh, this is possible. And so we met and started thinking about how it could be done. We pulled from all of these materials that had already been developed where this had been formed as a priority and given a budget essentially as well. So we shifted around a couple of things that were really actually also around staffing, a lot of them in the budget for this work of realizing the recovery goals for economic development. And we followed a lot of the blueprint from Amesbury, and we've referenced this webinar a lot. They had project support, which we didn't. And because this is something that I would have project managed alternatively, but my scope was already kind of identified, we decided to allocate for another project manager to really oversee this. And like Danielle said, to facilitate it. And the mandate from the select board was so wise, was to ensure that this was really collaborative between stakeholders to ensure we had this really clear process. And because this is really volunteer driven and there are a lot of stakeholders, the role of the project manager is really essential to ensuring that we can kind of, get this over the line in our timeline, given our kinds of budgetary needs, the other projects that are stacked up with it. We've mentioned the wayfinding projects and other things here. And really because our funding for this, it was allocated for a particular kind of project and time frame as well. But, I think that's just a kind of context. I think having staff within like staffing support for committees is always a little complicated, but it can provide such a benefit to be able to have a little bit more support for keeping things moving and being a liaison in a lot of ways with different stakeholders and with designers. And that's really within Danielle's scope, is to work with us, to work with the designer, to work with community members and various kinds of all the facets that make up the community in Belchertown, and to ensure that we do this in a way that reflects all of the goals that we set forward years ago, to ensure that this project happens, and that it becomes a foundation for our economic development work.
Thanks, Maud. So any questions or discussion on that? I know some of you and I have met one-on-one, but not all of us have had a chance to speak one-on-one. If you ever have questions or want to do that, I'm always happy to put time on the calendar for that. But just wanted to provide that context. Okay. So we've officially hired Locality. The contract has been executed. We're waiting on finalizing a fee schedule, but that was processed yesterday. And Maud, I have a list of potential times for a meeting with Stantech, which Katie's super excited about. And there are a couple of things for us to discuss today so that we can get Locality started. So the first is a site visit. And core to Katie's recommendation in her proposal was aligning her site visit with some existing town events so that we know that people are already gathering. It'll streamline the work of advertising and getting people out the door. She is flexible as to when that could happen because the updating of the town seal is a little bit lesser scope than designing a new logo. She's going to get started on that brainstorming first and really lean heavily on the site visit to inform that process, but that could also be in conjunction with Stantech. So she is flexible and available for a mid-March through April visit. And also said she could do earlier, but that timing sounds right to me, as it'll give us time to really, let people know when this is happening and invite them. But I wanted open discussion here to see, are there any, or what are the existing events or community moments this spring that we can align with?
Can I just share as a part of this framing that Stantech really wants to collaborate on this event. So because these projects are so related to one another, if we're going to be engaging the public to kind of incorporate both of these instances and anywhere where we're going to be asking questions. And for them, their project also involves, for their initial site visit, our scope only includes 2 site visits. And Steve's suggestion was that this site visit be inclusive of their need to do on the ground signage audit and public event. And because of the timing for them, earlier in March would be preferable, like the first couple of weeks of March, if that's at all possible.
I think it could be possible for Katie. I'm just wondering, but I'm wondering if there's anything on the town calendar that we can align with. And last time we discussed it, usually those events were kind of tied to weather. So
yeah, I think there's definitely less events going on in March. We were, agricultural community. You're gonna have more things later in the year, but I also don't even think April there's a lot going on. It's and anybody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that there's a lot of like big community events really until the snow goes away and the crops start to grow. Otherwise, I think it's gonna be slim pickings on what events we have in town. So if instead we need to pivot and coincide with where other groups are coming into town to learn about things and to sort of make sure that we're working harmoniously with, the other side of this whole project, I think that might be a priority, in my opinion.
I'm seeing that there are some events at the library. And there are some varsity baseball games.
Baseball
Yes, baseball, varsity baseball.
in late April.
There is a varsity baseball game on March 31st, which I know is towards the end of the month, not the beginning of the month, but I'm just reading what's on the calendar. Back Porch Festival is not in Belchertown. But some reason it's coming up on the Belchertown calendar. It looks like there is a Quabbin event on March 2nd.
Our chair has an event in March.
Seeing as
Sugar
how that
Fest.
is a private event and there will be purchase and sale things going on, that probably could be viewed as a conflict of interest. Not saying that couldn't be the event, but there would have to be some obstacles to overcome to make that one happen.
And sugaring would be really on theme, very local, Belchertown.
Mhm.
It absolutely would, but he's got vendors there and stuff.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
absolutely
Agreed.
does, unfortunately.
it's a different it's a different kind of public event, but
But
Believe
if
me,
there's-
I already thought of that, but all the vendors there was kind of shot that down.
But I'm wondering if there's another event.
well,
that's
how is that
on
different than
event.
going to the town fair? I mean, that's,
Mm.
we were tossing that out there. There's no,
But you as the chair are the sponsor of that event,
well, true.
and that could be
Yeah.
viewed as self-serving.
Yes, I understand.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I remain quiet, but I've never discussed that.
I thought of it as well and almost immediately shot it down. It's like that can't be made to work.
When is it?
March 15th.
I mean, there may be a world in which, he abstains from voting. It is a great town event. I want to hear more about it, but yeah, like sugar houses are a big thing in New England, in this town. Maybe there is a way that we make it, Nate would have to fully abstain from the conversation, and we'd have to look at other options as well. But that might be the winner if we just play it above board and be as ethical as possible and make declarations. And Nate would have to recuse certain things, but it's possible.
I think that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it sounds great.
I wonder if 4-H is doing any events around the same time?
No, there's not any 4-H events that I know of.
Okay.
My son's involved in that.
Okay.
So not that this time of year is it's tough.
Yeah.
The only thing going on in town is McCarthy's Pub on St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to throw it out there. I'm Irish, but that's it. It's the only thing. You want to meet the townspeople and every other town. That's it. I think Nate's would be great.
That's a lot of pressure.
It would just be a booth that Katie sets up, a table that Katie sets up, to ask questions and have conversation and maybe collect feedback from folks that are already there. I think if it's a signature town event that 2,000 people,
Private event. It's a private event.
2,000 people have responded on Facebook saying that they're interested in attending. And I just can't imagine another event that, and also like, we don't have to do this, but I can't imagine us starting a Facebook event and getting 2,000 people to attend. Are there any, I'm just trying to think if there's like anywhere that we could set up that's not necessarily at the event, but maybe that's like on the road nearby, like as people are driving by or driving to and from, like,
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. There's certainly plenty of people, but at the same time, you know, I don't want it to be, it's not a town event. You know, it is a public event, but it's not a town event. You know what I
Neither
mean?
would anything that we did at the library, neither would anything that we did at the school necessarily be like a town event, right? Or the farmer's market, if we were to set up at the farmer's market.
It's
Yeah,
true.
we're just trying
Farmers
to make
market
a
is not
traffic
associated.
flow.
When does the farmer's market
And
come
and
back?
and Nate,
June.
I think you know you should.
Oh, I think we lost them.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time.
You broke up, Chris. We didn't catch what you shared.
Yeah, he's having connectivity issues.
Yeah, I'm pulling into my driveway, so I'm hitting between Wi-Fi and mobile. I don't know if you can still hear me, but
Yes.
I mean, Nate, you should declare whether or not you're comfortable with this right off the bat, so that we can move on if you're not.
I don't know. I can't answer that right now. I just don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. I, it raises a lot of questions. I mean, it certainly is an opportunity to get out there in the public, but I don't know as far as from a,
I think we should table this for now and confer with Terry and Steve.
Okay.
I,
So that
just
is
don't know.
for further thought and discussion, March 15th, Sugar Fest. Farmers Market doesn't get started again until June, so I think that's not an option. In the meantime, are there any other things on folks' calendar in March? We have St.
Maybe,
Patrick's Day.
I can't
maybe
think of anything.
I don't think maybe even wants to entertain that. I'm not picking that up from him.
I do want to mention as a potential conflict, earlier in that week on Wednesday, March 12th, is the Amherst Area Chambers mixer event in Belchertown, which is seeking to reach local in Belchertown businesses.
Is that a conflict or is that a potential opportunity for a site visit and set up at that event?
Because it's targeted towards small businesses, I think community is kind of like more limited scope, and the venue in the attendance wouldn't be anywhere near what Sugarfest would be. I don't, yeah, I
We get a
think
lot of folks from outside Belchertown attending that as well.
yeah, I'm not sure it's the event. I think it's actually more of a conflict than an opportunity.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave it to folks to keep thinking on possibilities and suggestions, and we will have a discussion of this at our kickoff meeting with Katie. So she's going to ask, like, what are the possible events that we can come to? And if there's like one clear yes, we can deliver it, and she'll obviously, I would, if we have a date in mind, I would like to communicate that to her as soon as possible so we can have her plan her travel. But you know, obviously we don't have an answer right now, so just something to keep thinking on. And if anyone has suggestions, I'm happy to aggregate them. Feel free to email me or email Nate.
Is this also going to be considered it's just a meet and greet, or is this a public meeting? How is this structured in the realm of open meeting type stuff?
It's not an open meeting. It will not be an open meeting. It's an opportunity for the graphic designer to speak with and ask questions of members of the public. There may be a survey that we put together jointly between Stantech and Locality, and we have QR codes to distribute.
What is this? What is Samtech? I get, forgive me. What is that?
They're the folks who are going to be creating the wayfinding signage plan. So the work
Which
that
is
happened.
totally not associated. Well, it is associated, but it's not part of.
Correct. So
Okay.
but it's related because these projects will kind of one feeds into the other. So the brand material developed with Katie and Locality is going to be coordinated with Stantech, who will be kind of translating it into signage. But they're doing other pieces as well around, doing an audit of our signage needs, using previous feedback, and then backing it up with additional community engagement to kind of identify where we can prioritize for signage in this first phase and things like that. But it's going to be, they're overlapping, and one feeds kind of into the next. It's one of the first places where the brand will kind of be realized and implemented.
Okay.
And they also have a parallel process too, where they want to do a survey, they want to meet people, they want to understand the town, and a lot of the questions really overlap. We looked, Danielle Whitney, the project manager with Stantech, and I met, and we looked at their survey, and there were many same questions. And so as it kind of like gets pushed out to the community in various facets, we want to make sure that we're, that it can do double duty. We just put out one thing and talk with people about both of these projects because they're so related.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And if this was a Stantech led event where Locality was like a secondary participant and I was a secondary participant, and we were using Stantech information to inform our graphic design process, then there would really be absolutely no conflict of interest. Just thinking about how to frame that if it is something that Nate ends up being comfortable with. But
Yeah,
no pressure.
I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah,
Just to
yeah.
put that out there.
Please, yeah.
I'm not on that. I'm not on that bus uh, yet. And it's just one of those things that I didn't really think about, but I don't want to muddy the water with this and that and all that stuff too, because it's complicated, and we've got a complicated situation enough as it is. And so,
All right, so I will invite Molly. Welcome. Molly Robinson is here joining our quorum for notes purposes. Let's say that out.
Molly Robinson, present.
12:33 p.m.
Thank you.
We were just chatting about possible events where Stantech and Locality could collaborate to share a survey. We're trying to eliminate fatigue and put all of our efforts into one place where we know people will be gathering. So we're looking for town events, ideally in March, to share a survey and get some crowdsource some feedback on signage and brand. So if you have any ideas, Molly.
I'm not aware of a lot going on in March, but I think that sounds like a good approach. People are probably going to get tired of being asked to contribute, and then you're going to get fewer representatives participating over time.
Can I make a comment about these events, wherever these events are? As a group, the voting members need to be careful not to form a quorum at these events. So I would recommend that you keep your distance and that you're not forming a quorum. Yeah. You can all be at the same event, just best to just stay apart.
Who did? Thanks,
Okay.
Nicole.
Would I what?
What? Okay. So Danielle, are there more project updates that come in front of us?
Yep. So Locality proposed an outline of an agenda for our kickoff meeting. And I wanted to just get everyone's take on that proposed agenda, hear if there's anything else that you would like to make sure is included, because I'll finalize that with Katie and then I'll deliver it to Nate and Chris so that it can go to town clerk so that we can do our kickoff meeting with Locality. She proposed starting off with the introductions, confirming any like file sharing or file needs, which I'm happy to do with her offline, discuss possible times with existing events for the site visit. So that is like the probably one of the strongest agenda items for that meeting, and go over what we want that event to look like, right? What are the parameters? Is it a half an hour? Is it 5 hours? Is it Q&A? Is it one-on-one interviews? Whatever. So brainstorm during that session. Discuss the content of what we want to collect from the survey. Discuss any peer or aspirational towns or brands. So it's going to be a little bit of thought work from this committee that goes into prepping for that conversation with Katie. And any preferred communication methods that we are currently using to relate to public. But yeah, so I just wanted to see, how does that sound to folks? Is there anything else that we want to make sure that we cover in that kickoff?
I think I just two thoughts, or one thought that I had was, I think we all need to discuss we haven't at all. We've kind of touched on it a little bit, but you're leaning on these survey results from the town employees as far as feedback and such. And we've talked about it a little bit, but if we're collectively putting an idea together, I think we need to have all the cards on the table before we have a kickoff meeting. Does that make sense?
So I think that's something for this group to discuss.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so we can do that here, but one of the agenda items for our meeting with Katie is to discuss any survey data that we have, which will be that, which, yeah, I understand there should be some pre-work for this group, and strategize what our public town survey should be. So that's what she's asking for feedback on from this committee when we meet.
Okay.
When we say like the town survey, is that like us going out and to a smaller group events and asking people to fill out like a paper survey or a digital survey and just kind of like going wherever the people are, or trying to capture it all at once? I'm looking at the list of events for the cultural council and seeing, they'd be small, but they're happening in March. I just don't know if that would be a relevant way to get input.
So I want to jump in. If anybody has watched the select board meeting from last night, there was, and Nicole can attest to this, surveys in town are not an easy thing. There was a major feasibility survey done, and what did they have? 66?
61 out of 15,000 residents have responded.
Yep. So we got more responses out of our staff survey. We got more responses out of the communication committee survey to the town that was done through Facebook and whatnot. Just figure out what people are using for resources to communicate. So it might end up being that we have to go to events and kind of canvas if we want to really get a true response from town. I think, setting up surveys online, I can absolutely get one up on the town website real easily. And just, we could start pushing that to newspapers and to wherever else so that people can come in and set responses. But I think if we're getting just only 100 responses out of 15,000 people, then I think we have to start going to the committees in town and to their events and just saying hey, can this be a line item? Could this be a thing that you just get this survey out and get it back to us? Or it means that we have to just show up for 10 minutes, give a speech, and then get responses.
Yeah. So Molly, I think Katie's point was try to align with the big things that are happening, but there's also going to be a finite window during which we need that survey to close, right? And I imagine Stantech is going to have a deadline on when they need their information by as well. So part of what we'll do in our kickoff with Katie, Katie and Stantech and Maud and I are going to meet prior to our kickoff to figure out like exactly what the window of that survey needs to be. And I will also challenge Locality and Stantech to tell us like what the right cross section, what the number is that we're looking for. Like, is it okay if we get 100 respondents? Like, what is the right number for us to strive for? And then Kate has been really awesome in terms of putting things out online and via Facebook. So I think going like a 3D strategy where we're online, in newspapers, and in person will be helpful and possible. I don't know that we'll get 15,000 respondents, but you know,
Well, the
that's
municipal employee survey went out, and from what I've learned is that 90% of the municipal town employees live in town. So uh, is that a weighted response? Well, perhaps, at this point, there that we do have some data there, not a lot, but there's some.
definitely.
Let me know if I should send the things I'm aware of if we want to do this more of a canvassing approach. Cultural Council is having a grants reception at the end of the month. There's 3 events at the Senior Center in March. There's one at Town Hall on mobility, and I think there's an event with the chamber coming up taking place in Belchertown as well, which would get businesses.
Yeah, if we want to do multiple, I would like rather than one big event, that would be great. And when we were doing surveying for wayfinding and cultural district stuff, we had 4, a mix of events where we went to the senior center and things like that. We had it online. We had postcards that were pre-stamped in the newspaper, all the things. I think that could work really well. I
And
think
Molly,
if we are going to
a
do
visit.
multiple, the senior center would be really important to include.
Yeah, I was going to say a visit to the senior center just to kind of sit and chat with people would be great for her.
okay. And maybe there's a way to kind of both and it. If we have folks from this committee that are going to be attending some of those events anyway, that are willing to like show up with a survey card and just give a 5-minute introduction as to why we're here, what we're doing. I'm also happy to put some of those on my calendar, and as many as will fit on Katie's calendar during her visit. So
I think where you're
yes,
going to get
Molly.
your most traction is going to be on the Facebook community forums, the unpaused and the polite. That's where you're going to see your most amount of interaction, good, bad, or not good or bad, whichever. But that's where you're gonna hear people chit chat.
And there's absolutely truth to that. That's where a lot of our responses came from with the communication survey. But we do want to, I will state that in our survey and an analysis of it, we want to state that there is some major bias if we are just going off of Facebook. So I think, that in addition to, as Danielle said, all the other events that we're talking about, I mean, like we should just try to hit it all, right? And get as many responses as we can and get the word out and just canvas and do what we can.
Awesome. Anything else, and we'll discuss this more as we have the survey and make an outreach plan for it, but anything else that feels important to bring into our kickoff meeting with Katie?
I have a question. You said you talked about there's 2 phases to this with the town seal and the logo. Are there, with the town seal, you said she's already starting something.
So part of what's
the plan there?
So their input is community feedback is going to drive everything that happens. But part of what happens with the town seal is that it's going from a 6-foot large painting to a digitized like JPEG, right? So some of what she needs to do is just technical, I don't need to say just technical, but is like technical graphic design of converting an image of a painting to a digital image and like digitizing it. So some of that background stuff can happen before we're in a stage where we're getting feedback on it, right? So it's just the translation of the medium is like the first thing that she can start doing.
Okay.
She can
Okay. So
start
that, I
like,
just wanted that point of clarity as far
Yeah.
as far as, you know, that you had mentioned earlier that that was going on, and it's like, well, okay, nobody's talked about.
she hasn't started anything yet. She hasn't
Yeah.
started anything yet, but she offered to have our kickoff meeting and start that process if we wanted to do a later site visit so that we could like make the most of the weather. She offered to do a later site visit so that she could still gather community input on everything she's doing, but not start working until then. She's like, I can start working before we have a site visit on some of the background information and some of the technical work that needs to happen, and have something for people to see, have something for people to look at if we wanted to do a meeting later. It sounds like for the purposes of collaborating with some of the other projects in town, it makes sense to do it earlier, which she can absolutely accommodate as well. We just want to try to put it on her calendar, like respectfully as soon as possible. And in terms of a date for a kickoff meeting, she is available to join us on Wednesdays at noon. We do not currently have a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday. We could have that meeting, our kickoff meeting with Katie during our next regular meeting, which will be on March 5th.
And you might have to update the link because the link does say the 26th, so that will expire on that. You'll have to update that link.
Thank you. But how do folks feel about either a March 5th kickoff or a February 26th kickoff? I know Nicole will not be with us next week, but
I'd say the earlier the better. The 26th is fine with me, I think.
It's fine with me as well.
The 26th is not good with me. That is
Okay,
that 3-day period. I have a week, a work event that I have to full attention to.
are there any other days next week or the week after that you'd like me to propose? I have a general list of Katie's availability.
I mean, like all other times are good for me. The 26th is just the 25th, 26th, 27th are just no good.
Okay.
Which I'm one of quorum, so like you could have it without me, but yeah.
So for the kickoff, we're having a public meeting that establishes that just the baseline for the conversation with the public.
Yeah, so the proposed agenda items for that kickoff meeting are introductions, like have everyone say like who you are, actually get to meet Katie, because you only really got to speak very briefly, if at all, in the interviews. I'm sure there'll be some kind of an icebreaker about like what you love about the town, or what are you most excited about the process, or something like that. But get to know her, discuss when the visit will be, when the site visit will be, and like what we want that structure to look like. What is going to land best with residents? If it is going to coincide with another event, what are the parameters? What do we want it to look like? We get to design it, right? We get to design it. She will inform what she thinks is best, but you get to decide. And really discuss what the existing communications methods are, come up with what the content of the town survey, the public survey, will be. So this is, for everyone to discuss and weigh in on that, informed by Stantech.
Are we going to have all this conversation before next Wednesday?
So the meeting is for this conversation.
That's for this conversation.
Yes, yes. This is the agenda. So that's
okay.
What the content of the kickoff will be, whether it's next Wednesday or March 5th, or we choose another date.
Sure.
We're all here wanted to get some possible times that work so that we have time to put this agenda on the town calendar and book it on everyone else's calendar too.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. I mean, I'm available on the 26th, so we can do that.
I mean, jumping off on the 5th is sooner the better, in my opinion.
Ed, do you have anything to say?
I have no preference on dates.
Okay.
Just call it the 5th. Was there anybody else who couldn't do that date?
We don't know. I know that Kate is on for the 5th. I don't know what Kate's availability is. I'm sure she would like to be there.
I've got her number. I'll ping her quick.
It's 2 weeks away, so I think that ought to work out.
I think it's fine if we do the 5th. Pardon?
At that point, we would know the event time for her to come here because that's very.
I
really
think
close.
it would be best if we are expecting Katie to come on the weekend of the 15th. I would like us to make that decision within the next week so that we can confirm that she's available and have her book flights and travel. If we're okay with later in March or early April, then I think there's a little bit less of a crunch. But I think we can, if this committee is interested in a particular event and we're just gonna I think we can schedule this by email if it's something that folks are interested in doing with Sugarfest. It felt like everyone outside the key decision maker was pretty consensus-y on it. So it might be something that we hear from Nate on within the next week or so after he has time to think and reflect and talk to Terry and Steve and make sure that that's above board if it's something that everyone else kind of is enthusiastic about.
It's all weather dependent too. There's this time of year, you never know what we're going to get. It's clear. It's clear now, so you just never know.
Well, I'm getting syrup.
All right, so yeah, I guess as far as that's concerned, we should probably think of the 5th as that meeting. Is that our regularly scheduled meeting?
That's our next regularly scheduled meeting.
So let's go with that.
Okay.
Complicating things.
Okay.
And I think that allows for enough time to figure things out as we need to.
And I would say, if there needs to be discussion of the town survey beyond what we've done thus far, perhaps there's a separate meeting between now and then. If that's something that everyone wants to do before meeting with Katie, then that's something that should be put on the calendar, or it can be something that folks, assess independently and then come ready to discuss with her.
I feel
Would someone be willing to go through that survey and extract out all the duplicates and maybe just make a list of, I think we saw Quabbin 80 times and, agriculture that many times. Is there a way that someone could just make a list of each single response that's individual?
Yeah, I do data analysis all the time, so I can pull stuff together.
Yeah. Because I have a feeling we're talking about a fairly small group of ideas, but it just looks really big right now because you had so many respondents.
Okay. Yeah, Krista, that would be great if you could compile that information. You can make it easier to digest and figure out.
And I think I've done that a little bit, but I welcome Chris's eye as well. But within the survey folder, there's some insights.
Found some really cool animated graph tools recently where you just upload a CSV of data and it does it all for you. So I'm excited to use that more. I can do it for this. And
what is it, Chris? What is it?
Flourish.io or .net. It's very cool. I could send the link around later, but it's very, very neat graphics, and it's all free for base level stuff, which they give you a lot. So I don't want to advertise too much of another company or anything like that, but yeah, I can handle this.
My work just started using it too.
Yeah, it's great, and I think it would be an excellent addition as well to the branding page on the Belchertown website to give a real graphic idea and some color to the project.
Awesome.
All right,
Great.
so is there any more discussion on the, oh, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, no. So one of the takeaways I'm getting from all of this is that this committee is looking for public input, and they're trying to figure out a way to get it. My way is that we should have a public meeting. I know this is one, but we need to have one that's possibly in person, possibly up in the auditorium of the town hall. Have it during the evening. Put a press release in the Sentinel, get it out there, give people the opportunity to show up, and that is certainly one way to get input, is to make a big thing about it, put it out there so people have a chance to attend and give their input in person.
Absolutely agree.
I agree with
So I
that.
think it would be great to schedule that while Katie is here.
Yeah.
So if we were to do something the
That could
weekend
be
of
the
the
event
15th,
itself,
well, if we were to do something the weekend of the 15th, I think the 13th or the 14th evening prior could be a town meeting, right? Like there's ways she's down to come for a few days. So, or if there are any cultural council events, have a day before, a day after. We can, I don't know how much notice it takes to book the auditorium.
Steve already offered it for this very purpose.
Perfect.
I think, that we might need to ensure the correct date of availability and all that kind of stuff, but I think with enough notice, we can look and see what the availability is now.
Okay.
And obviously for people who can't come out, you just include the link as to where they can log on and take the survey.
And I think it can be a hybrid meeting, right? Like if anyone wants to call in through Zoom, if they can't make it out.
Oh, yes, that's still a thing.
Yep, great.
Okay.
The only other thing on the agenda was how to discuss localities hiring. And I made the suggestion to Kate, and I'll suggest to this committee, that rather than just do a press release announcing that we've hired a graphic designer, we do a press release announcing when the public input conversations are. So whether there's going to be a pop-up at an existing event or there's going to be a town meeting, but package those announcements so that it's one release, heavy hitting. We give people a very specific call to action of when they can log on or show up to something, and then say, and this is who's doing it, so that we're not running multiple releases in an inefficient way. But that was my suggestion. And then after that, I have no other updates.
Okay. I think that's a good idea, and on the 5th, we can probably discuss that and figure out the best way to canvas, social media and everything with with that. Because if you have too many releases, then it's just, everybody's gonna be like, oh yeah, it's another municipal step or something like that,
And even better, if we can hold the release of that information to promote the event, also include a survey link. If we can have it all done and go in one, the more content, I think, for a release, the better.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other updates or information to come before the project?
Danielle, did you say that you had some feedback from a citizen?
Yes, that I'm happy to read during public comment.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll shift gears back to, at this point, the approval of the minutes. We're going to open that discussion as a point of, because we now have a quorum with Molly. Molly, we tabled the discussion of minutes because Ed was not present for a number of those meetings, so he would have to abstain from the vote. And so we wanted to revisit the discussion of the minutes to be correct. So with that, I'll open a discussion to talk about the approval of the January 31st, 2025 minutes. Any discussions? Hearing none, I'll ask for.
I will this time motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is that Molly seconding?
That was Maureen.
Oh, Maureen,
Maureen,
sorry.
sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, and I'll call a vote. If you say your name and how you vote, please.
Molly Robinson, aye.
Maureen McGarrett Hall, aye.
Chris Martin, aye.
Nate Shattuck, aye. I think Ed's on the phone.
He's abstaining anyway.
He's abstaining. That's right. Okay. Okay. So moved. So part B of the approval of the minutes, the February 3rd, 2025 minutes. I'll open discussions. Anybody have any discussion for those minutes? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of February 3rd, 2025.
Motion to approve the minutes from February 3rd, 2025.
Chris Martin, do I have a second?
A second. Maureen McGarrett Hall.
Okay. I'll call a vote to approve the minutes for February 3rd, 2025.
Molly Robinson, aye.
Maureen McGarrett Hall, aye.
Chris Martin, aye.
Nate Shattuck, aye.
Ed Knight, aye.
Well, you'd
And
abstain.
yes, I can vote.
You can. Okay.
Okay. So the next set of minutes from February 5th, 2025, open discussion for the noontime meeting. Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 5th, 2025 at noontime.
I motion to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2025 at noon.
Chris Martin, do I have a second?
Second,
Second.
Ed Knight, second. I'll call a vote to approve the minutes.
Ed Knight, aye.
Molly Robinson, aye.
Maureen McGarrett Hall, aye.
Chris Martin, aye.
Nate Shattuck, aye. Open discussions for the next set of minutes for February 5th, 2025 at 1 p.m. meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for motion to approve the minutes of February 5th, 2025 at 1 p.m.
I motion to approve the minutes for February 5th, 2025 at 1 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Ed Knight, second.
I'll call a vote to approve the minutes for February 5th, 2025 at 1 p.m.
Ed Knight, aye.
Molly Robinson, aye.
Maureen McGarrett Hall, aye.
Chris Martin, aye.
Nate Shattuck, aye. So moved. Next set of minutes, open discussion for the February 5th, 2025 meeting at 3 p.m. I'll open that for discussion. Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of February 5th, 2025 at 3 p.m.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 5th, 2025 at 3 p.m.
Chris Martin, second.
Ed Knight, second.
Okay, I'll call a vote to approve the minutes of February 5th, 2025 at 3 p.m.
Ed Knight, aye.
Molly Robinson, aye.
Maureen McGarrett Hall, aye.
Chris Martin, aye.
And Nate Shattuck, aye. Okay, so open discussion for the February 11th, 2025 meeting.
Not necessary. I don't believe I provided those to anybody yet.
Oh, all right. Well, they're on our agenda, so.
Yeah, I had hoped that I would get them done in time, but I did not. So I will need to get them
Okay,
done next meeting.
so we will table those minutes until the next meeting.
Yep.
The next up, we have a discussion of a letter of interest that was sent to the committee. I will try to share it here. Let's see. I think I can do this. Can you see this?
No.
It says I'm screen sharing.
Yeah, it says that you started oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yep.
Played.
Okay, so we have a volunteer submission that was sent, must be through the website. Lisa Ducharme, Chauncey Walker, and I think I sent this to everyone. I tried to anyway. Did you all receive the email with that in there?
Yes.
I got it.
And so I'm going to ask, to prove, I guess we need to see if there's any discussion. If anyone has any discussions. Certainly presented a lot of experience.
Yeah, we no other candidates have stepped forward. We have the open seat. It would be the tie-breaking seat, which is kind of important. Absolutely seems qualified. There's plenty of stuff in here. I think I think some perspective of like, no offense to anybody, but like even a younger generation, like, even somebody in 20s and teens would be great to have on this, but at the same time, they're not stepping forward. So I that would be my only thing, is that, getting a little more of that diversity in there, but otherwise I'm fine with this.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has any input?
I think she actually fits in perfectly.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to ask, for a motion to approve the recommendation of Lisa Ducharme for appointment to the committee.
One question, Nate. Has Lisa confirmed that they're available to make our regular meeting times at this time?
I have not had a direct discussion with her, but
okay. The only reason I raise that is because if not, it will impact quorum. So I don't know if there's a way to vote to.
It won't change the quorum.
If she's not able to attend, it will.
It's already 4. Quorum, to make quorum is 4 with a 7-person.
Okay.
Committee.
It won't impact us.
Yeah, it won't affect us because I've already discussed that.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's with a 7-person committee, quorum is 4.
I think, if she can't make the meeting times, then, which have been regularly posted through this entire process, then
right. Then
I think we'd have to ask that she recuse herself, and we find somebody who can make the meeting times. Unfortunately, unless we have a bigger discussion on moving those meeting times. But
right, and there's a little bit more to that in this meeting, a little later on. So
yeah, but I think it's a good question for her that we should verify that she could do that, but I don't think that should hold up a vote.
Right. So I'll ask to approve the recommendation of Lisa Ducharme for appointment to the committee. For a motion, I'll ask for a motion. Anyone?
Yep, sure. I motion that we add Lisa A. Ducharme as our 7th and final member of the Branding Belchertown Committee.
I have a second.
Ed Knight, second.
Is there any discussion? I'd like to 3, 2, 1. I'll call for a vote.
Molly Robinson, aye.
Maureen Garrett Hall, aye.
Ed Knight, aye.
Chris Martin, aye.
Nate Shattuck, aye. So moved. I'll send a information to Steve appointing Lisa Ducharme to the committee. Okay. Thank you. Next up, I have on the meeting agenda a remote meeting option discussion. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. One thing that's been brought to my attention from the town clerk is that the state of Massachusetts is changing the Zoom option for open meeting laws on March 31st, or having Zoom meetings, and they have to go back to in-person meetings. I don't know. I don't have all the details, and I don't know whether they're going to amend that or not. But at this time, March 31st, the state is going to change this language to require all public meetings to be in person. And so I think I'm bringing this up so that we all can be out in front of it if it does come to pass.
Okay. Is a hybrid meeting allowed? Because obviously not everybody is local in this project.
Yes, but the principals need to be in person. This meeting format was driven by COVID, and then it was extended, and I believe the provisions that are allowing this to happen expire March 31st. So unless the state legislature changes something, starting April 1st, we are meeting in person.
That's going to be a problem.
So no, but I mean, no, you can still attend remotely, but the quorum, the voting members are going to need to be in person.
Four voting members need to be in person, I believe.
Yes.
Quorum and chair need to be in person per Terry.
And the chair.
She noted that in the chat. So,
yeah.
I mean, this is, unfortunately, it's the Massachusetts state law that we have to contend with, and it's not something that, and I put it on the agenda so that we can be ahead of it if we have to. I don't know what this means for further discussion in how we find updates, as to whether there's a change in dialogue, but at the same time, it is something we have to put out there for our planning purposes.
I think you're saying this is just more of an FYI at this moment.
At this point, yes, and I think moving forward, I mean, my goodness, we're what, 6 weeks away from March 31st, so it's if we got meetings, quote unquote meetings planned, meetings planned out until the end of May or June or July, whatever, then, and they require them to be in person, then we have to do that.
So I wonder if there's any way to ask formally, whether it's from the town clerk or from the state, for an exemption, as this committee was formed by volunteers under previous understanding. Everyone has jobs, they have kids, they have families. Expecting people to commute at least 30 minutes on either side of a meeting is a really undue burden to participation in the municipal process. It is an expensive cost unless the state or the town is going to provide reimbursement for gas or transportation. Like, this is
you can still attend by Zoom.
Yeah, but four people must attend.
Yeah, like
So
I would
yeah,
need to
but
go
all
there
of
and
us
it's
are
gonna be,
town residents.
it's a problem for me. Like, I can't take an hour and a half to 2 hours out of the middle of my work day every other week or every week.
Well, we should have Kate there. I could attend. If we get 2 other people that say they can be there, including Nate, then that would be enough where, Molly, you could attend remotely. And that
Yeah, I
would
mean,
acceptable.
I would try to attend. I feel like that's, I don't want to commit to being able to do that every single time.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if there's a way for us to ask for an exemption. This committee was formed under a really clear understanding of our obligations. Everyone wants to participate equally and equitably, and I understand that hybrid will accommodate that.
The town clerk
Harry
is
is
on the
saying-
meeting with us, so she's
Right, and she says no exemptions will be allowed. So I guess I'm wondering, how do we ask the state for an exemption?
I don't think you're going to get one.
Can we ask?
I think it's possible to ask, but with the assumption that we're going to get the no. I mean, I don't see any harm in reaching out and saying, is there anything that could be done? But with the full understanding that it's probably going to be no, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's another
She's saying
note in
it's
the
no.
chat from Terry. That's
Yeah.
state law. No exemptions are made to state law. So, this obviously affects all of us in various ways, and so it's just we're going to have to navigate it, however, is required.
Well, another possible way of navigating it is to petition to become a working group and not an official committee, and still maintain open meeting law and still keep our meetings public and keep minutes and do all of the things that we have been doing this whole time without officially being a committee and not needing to technically follow open meeting law. That is technically another workaround that I'll just name into the space.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to navigate that at this point. I don't know. I don't have that answer of whether it can go backwards.
I don't think it can.
From a transparency standpoint and that kind of thing. So
there is also the possibility that it gets extended again. I know that there's a lot of advocates for it to remain open. It's definitely far more accessible for people. And a lot of people like this method. I think we've done really well with this method so far. But it's yet to be. The reality is I have to play that middle ground that it's like, everybody wants it, but the state law is going to close it, and who knows what's going to happen. There's a deadline that it needs to be resolved by. And if nothing comes up from the state to extend that, then
we're on the hook to figure it out.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And that's the whole reason that this line item is in here, is because, win, lose, or draw, we have to figure it out. And, we have to still involve the public. We still, we still have to maintain that level of, communication and transparency, and or follow the guiding principles of this committee.
Well, as long as 4 members are public, the others can join via Zoom, and so can the public.
Yeah,
that's correct.
And public meetings are a burden, yes. And I'll be honest, frankly, I'm running a business right now, and it's the noontime meeting is difficult for me. I don't have lunch at noon, but at the same time, there's hardships everywhere, and we're here volunteering our time, and obviously, this is all blocked out for you, Danielle, and I recognize that, but at the same time, this is just on the record as something that we will likely have to address.
For the record, we chose this time because it worked for the group, and I did block this time for the next 6 months of our contract. We can choose other meeting times,
okay,
but this is the time that I have allotted. We can choose another time, but we also have members of this committee that joined a working group as part of their regular workday, including Maud, including Doug, including Kate. So, I think it's perfectly fine to discuss other meeting times. And I've offered that multiple times as we've had new members join. But I do think that people signed up to volunteer their time with an understanding of what the commitment would be. And it didn't entail spending money on gas to drive in their cars. It didn't entail leaving their homes. It didn't entail commuting to be in person, right? Like, there are a lot of barriers to participation when this is in person, even if it's only on 4 members. It doesn't impact me. I can Zoom in regardless, right? But I'm talking about other members of this committee.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's we might have to do that.
Yeah, we're the voting members, so you kind of have to pivot if they change it.
Most of the town committees meet in person anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are a rare exception, to be honest.
I think we're one of 3 committees that work fully remote right now in the town of Belchertown. So, that's what I've learned from this, and really, however it navigates, however we figure it out, we're just going to have that discussion. It's a hard discussion. At the end of the day, there is a solution, but if push comes to shove, the law is the law, and we have to follow it. So, and I'm not sure that transparency wise, Danielle, to your point about going back to a working group, I'm not sure the feasibility of that either, because the whole point of us being here as a committee was for transparency reasons, and there's not a way to shift that back.
I think the only thing that we would not be allowed to do is post our official agenda on the town website and post our official minutes on the town website, because we tried to do that as a working group and we're told that that was not permitted. But we could still post those things on the Branding Belchertown webpage.
But
then the activities of this committee would not have any merit or standing.
Right.
The only way that happens is as official town committee.
I think we're perhaps spiraling on this and going too far. I want to be absolutely mindful of especially the people that are paid to be here, that they've taken time to the mod and Danielle, that this is their business and they need to this is their 9 to 5, right? And we're the volunteers who said yes, we'll give up the extra time to do it, and we're helping with that stuff. Changing the time that we meet, it doesn't bother me. I know it might bother other people, but it's come up multiple times. So maybe it's time that we get together. What do they call them, doodles or whatever, where everybody puts in what time they can be. If we get a better time to come out of this, maybe we can find out that it's like, Fridays at 4 is actually the best time or whatever, so let's put in the work to figure that out. And we can do that. It's scheduling. So we could do that outside of these meetings.
Right. And that's the other point, is we can talk about that as a group.
We can get, going forward, we can ensure that there's going to be 4 people present at a public location that don't mind being there. That's part of the volunteering part of it. That I don't mind. Yeah, I'm pulling time from work right now. I'm stealing time from my job, but I can.
I am too. And Nate is a business owner. Nate, do you close at 5 or 4?
Me, 4:30.
Yeah. So
with and again, all of us have either sports events or kids or
yeah.
But there's concessions that we need to make as volunteers in this town, and people who are passionate about this project to get it done. And that's, I think let's just make it work. And we've got till the 29th to figure it out. I think we could still work as a committee. I think we just have to do a little figuring things out. And because the good news is, because it's scheduling stuff, we could do that all offline. We could do it in email stuff. Yeah. It out, so we're not taking up any more of people's time at this period. So I would like to just propose that we start with a doodle meeting review to see whose days are open and what we can do, and we go from there.
Yeah. Are we able to include Lisa in that, because she could be a critical 4th person able to attend in person? Or do we have to wait for her?
We have to wait for her to get sworn in and stuff.
Well, can we include her in the survey just to see her availability?
Yeah, I think we can get her in the survey, and technically she wouldn't count until she's voted in, but I say get her opinion.
And plus get her aware that this is a requirement soon.
Yep.
So I just created a when to meet, and I will share this as well, but I'm just going to show you, in order to participate in this, you would just enter your name and click which times, and click sign in. You don't need a password, but click which times work for you in green, and then they'll pop up here and we can see when everyone is available or unavailable. So
perfect. Did you just build this?
That
is insanely fast.
So this particular site is different from Doodle. It's a little bit quicker, but it's
more open.
It's very visual, and you can say, okay, like half hour times.
Okay.
And then Nate, when you go in, if you say that you're also free from Mondays from 9 to 10, this screen will get darker.
Okay.
And it just becomes very clear who is free when. So I will send this, I'll put it in the chat if anyone is like very eager and wants to do it right now, but I will also send it via email. I just wanted, some people haven't used this platform before. I wanted to give you a quick demo on how it works.
Okay.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
All right.
Of course.
Thank you. And in the essence of time, I think we've discussed this quite a bit, and so we just it's now out there. So Do we have anything else to come before?
The open letter.
Yeah. And okay, so we'll open that up to public comment.
Okay. Well, I have a public comment to
Okay.
read. Maud received an email that was shared with me, and we have been given approval and requests to share during public comment. The email was from Lynn Spickiger, 21 Magnolia Lane, Belchertown. The message says, "Hello. As long as you're spending money to rebrand the town, why not also change the name back to Cold Springs, Mass? No one likes the name Belchertown. It is a joke that people laugh at much of the time. Why should we be proud of a town named after a slave dealer who never set foot in this town? In the past, we have been told that it would be too costly to change the name of the town. But as long as you're making those other changes, updating the seal, creating a new logo, creating a visual identity, why not include a name change? If you truly want to, quote, honor a legacy and respect the values that make Belchertown unique, end quote, discard the town's name that harkens back a time that was not very honorable. Thank you." And when asked, could we share this via public comment? Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking. I appreciate the work you're doing. We definitely need Belchertown to be able to attract more industry to lessen the tax rate, especially for those of us on fixed income. Plus, it would be nice to have more restaurants and shops. Best, Lynn. So that is the message that we received.
Well, in my opinion, to address that, and Lynn, I appreciate people reaching out and sending us comments. This is great that that's happening. I've run into a few other situations where people have sent me stuff, but have said not to share it. Not to the same point, but the issue here, one way or the other, is that this is all already paid for. And the renaming of the town is a very big deal, in my opinion. I'm not actually part of the town, but like, imagine everything that needs to be changed beyond signage and digital things and whatnot. Like, that's a massive undertaking.
Was that even part of the charge for this committee?
It was never part of the charge for this committee.
So it's off the table.
Yeah, it's not up to us.
We could refer Lynn also to the FAQs. I think we already put a question there that says, are you changing the name of the town? And sort of gives that explanation that it's out of scope and out of budget.
Didn't I believe that's in there?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
she can look
Oh,
at
yeah,
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that. I think that's well beyond what we're charged to do in this case. So is it a discussion for future time? Well, that's not up to us right at the moment, I don't think. So
And I would also include in our response, maybe like if this is something you want to share with your local electeds, you can also share this with your reps. But again, like very much beyond our scope.
that's a much greater picture than
that would be a multi-year process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and lots of money.
Okay. So are there any other public comments to come before this committee? I believe we've already discussed the next meeting time as the 5th, and that we are going to visit on email the other meeting options and such as Danielle's put together the survey and everything. So I appreciate that. So at this point, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
A second?
Well,
Okay. So I'll make a motion to.
No, the chair does not make that motion.
Okay.
really?
Motion comes from the floor.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Yes. I second.
I'll vote to adjourn the meeting at 1:29 p.m.
Ed Knight, aye.
Molly Robinson, aye.
Elaine McGowan Hall, aye.
Chris Martin, aye.
Nate Shattuck, aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Have a good day. We'll be
Thank
in touch.
you.